All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's 2 o'clock. We'll resume the meeting. Appreciate everybody's patience. Park and Parkways, you are up. Thank you. The board's not working?
Presentation. You're back. You're back. Okay, you there, back there.
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, council members. Michael Karam on behalf of the Department of Parks and Parkways. I'm here representing the 130 plus strong Department of Parks and Parkways, with Sharon Brown, Chief of Operations to my right, and Rebecca Grubbs, Budget Coordinator to my left. We're here today to continue the department's chartered mission to manage, develop, beautify, preserve, and protect public green space. I'd like to thank the hardworking women and men of the department for their public service. It is not an easy job. Green spaces matter at a time like this, the mental and physical health benefits especially. They improve urban life by giving residents an outlet to relax, to play, to be at peace. Another reason to be proud of our city. While much of our work focuses on maintenance, our mission is more about stewardship of these spaces. As stewards, we face challenges with budget cuts that will impact an already underfunded field. My hope is to work with you to minimize those impacts and advocate for necessary resources. We'll get into the 26 department goals.
Got any black men at the table?
So, if at any time you have questions or comments, please stop us. I'll mention highlights in each of these categories. There's a lot of information here. But our 26 department goals, the first slide focuses on tree planting and maintenance. And while there is continued progress, a lot of it is dependent upon maintenance to ensure that it's maintained. We continue to move forward with our planting partners and the Office of Resilience and Sustainability on 3 large federal grants, an $8 million USDA grant, a $3.5 million HUD grant, and a $7.5 million EPA grant, mostly focusing on tree planting, some tree maintenance, and concrete removal. We continue to administer the annual tree planting grant to nonprofits that was started by this council several years ago, to provide and host a public mulch giveaway, to host the annual public tree giveaway, which is this year on Saturday, December 6th, to utilize the remaining ARPA funding and funding from the USDA for tree maintenance to supplement our operations. And also to establish an urban forest management plan development committee that will begin the process of developing an urban forest management plan. This will build on the 2025 ordinance revisions for tree protections and past engagement with our tree advocates. And also to improve the forestry inspection and maintenance operations through the use of the asset management system that we continue to work with the city to onboard. And finally, on the tree maintenance side, to fill vacancies in our forestry division to ensure that our crew numbers increase and to add to the 2025 gains that we've seen this past year and in previous years with equipment upgrades and the establishment of smaller tree teams. To the right, on the grounds maintenance side, the focus is to fill vacancies to ensure responsiveness for routine and emergency work given budget constraints, and to ensure that neutral grounds parks and facilities are adequately maintained across the board, both through our contractor work and our in-house teams. Also to work with the Department of Public Works as we address right-of-way and surplus property maintenance And finally, to review green space maintenance obligations across the board with the Department of Property Management, with NORD, Public Works, and ORS, to look at citywide green space management and to consider the possibility of unified contracts that would make those green spaces more uniformly covered and efficient. At the golf course, we are looking to hire a specialized consultant to work with staff to manage and maintain turf and greens, and also to make upgrades to our fleet to electrify the golf carts, and to continue to see improvements through state funds on a variety of course improvements. And then our list of grant and bond-funded projects is substantial, and I'll just run through them without mentioning the names or the numbers. We are seeing upgrades and improvements at Coliseum Square Playground, Lawrence Square and Brechtel Park playground safety surfacing replacement, Coliseum Square renovations, O.C. Haley Boulevard neutral ground green space creation, Real Timbers walking trail construction, Elysian Fields Phase 3 walking path construction, St. Roch walking path, Brechtel Park road surfacing, and picnic table renovations and signage. And continuing to the next slide, we have some remaining improvements at the Keller Center for that green space creation, Lawrence Square grass installation, Esplanade Avenue improvements, and we're looking at projects to plant groves of trees on DOTD property under I-10 and I-610 exchanges. And then finally, our parkways funded and partnership projects. Much of this is ongoing work. Ornamental and pollinator plant installations. This year, different locations have been done at Zachary, Washington Square with the Native Plant Initiative, and at Brechtel Park. We continue to manage the Porges Corridor Sculpture Exhibition in partnership with the Hellas Foundation. Seasonal ornamental plantings on Loyola, Jackson Square, Armstrong Park, and Harmony Circle, and our continued partnerships with workforce development organizations to expand green space and address maintenance needs. And I'll turn it over to Rebecca to review our personnel numbers.
And before you do that, members, I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on you, but with the system down, you may just want to pipe in as you need to, and I'll recognize you, Councilmember Thomas.
Yeah, machines aren't working, so I couldn't, well, I tried to press my name to speak. Joe Bartholomew Golf Course, and frequently there for lunch and going there sometimes to watch them play. Don't play anymore. I understand that that's going back out for bid, and we've priced out the people who were there. The restaurant seemed to be successful. I know if nothing else, it tastes good. So what's going on with that in terms of the increase that they say is kind of pricing them out of the ability to want to rebid, especially since they've seemed to be so successful the last couple of years?
So the RFP that included the price changes were part of a market study that was done for fair market value for rental for a food and beverage operator. The current operator does not pay water or electrical. The kitchen is all-inclusive, and the space, it has been successful. They were awarded the second RFP, but we were not able to come to an agreement during contract negotiations, and so now it's back out to a third RFP.
Yeah, they said some of the changes were also that they would be responsible for the physical structure, any improvements, alterations, or maintenance of the buildings also?
My understanding is that the language in the contract regarding those obligations were the same as in the past. There were just minor changes regarding the rental price and negotiating with the current tenant to ensure that the restaurant was open for breakfast and stayed open according to the terms of the lease from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Where could we find those changes, especially those things that were different? Is there a document or something that
Yeah, I mean, the information that's in the RFP is available to the public, and the lease, we can provide that to you.
I'm part of the public, but I'm the councilman.
I mean, I'm happy to provide it to you.
I don't want to put you out your way.
No.
It's just that the last time I was there for a meeting, because some groups have meetings there,
Yeah.
the person who runs it was saying that they've priced them out of it, so that they're going to be looking for another location somewhere else in the city, and it just seemed to be a successful operation in terms of food, the people who used it, the facility. And, you know, I'm only getting one side of it, but this is it's up to 50 or 60% increase in what they did pay at one time. And that seems like a lot.
And they've been there under the same terms of the lease for, I believe, the last 5 years. And the information in the new RFP, again, was just based on market research. We have a different opinion in terms of what was appropriate, and we weren't able to come to an agreement.
And the market research study, you guys have a copy of that too?
Yes.
Please give me that. I don't, not to inconvenience you, but I'd appreciate reading.
Yep, we'll send it right to you. Any other questions or comments on what we've presented so far? Okay. Rebecca.
Parkway's current FTEs for 2026 are up about 8.5 FTEs. That just reflects our current staffing level.
Go ahead.
We have an increase in our general fund personal services, which is due to the funding to match our current FTEs as well. We also have about a 25% reduction in Parkway's other operating that was received, as you are aware, across the board. In our non-general fund, personal services has decreased due to budgeting for actuals, just vacancies there. And our non-general fund other operating budget is a reflection of one-time funding. That's the Keller project that's now complete. So that money has been decreased from our budget there.
And to the budget impacts, which I think is the most important slide in our budget presentation in terms of the 26 budget year for the department, we are facing challenges both with a continued hiring freeze and operating budget cuts that will substantially impact our ability to continue to add funding to our tree maintenance contract. The first bullet speaks to that. Budget cuts will increase our tree maintenance work order backlog and also lengthen the cutting cycle of neutral grounds as less funds will be available for contractor work by our two main contractors. We are looking, well, let me jump to the third bullet point. We're looking at a number of smaller contracts to revisit as to whether or not we will have to be able to continue with them in order to maintain our operating budget. And we're also looking at our two large contracts with our grass cutting contractor. But we may be limited in terms of what we can cut, and where we would see reductions from our contractors, we would have to make up by the work done in-house. And with the vacancies that we have, in order for us to make up the work in-house, that work would have to be done with additional staffing resources. And so if we're being cut on one side, we would need to increase staff on the other to make up for that. Continuing hiring freeze will also contribute to the maintenance of other green spaces, parks, facilities, and the work that our teams do in-house cannot make up for that if we are not operating at full capacity. The third bullet point, well, I mentioned that, but I'm sorry, the fourth bullet point, as the city continues to plant trees to accomplish our climate action plan goal of 40,000 trees by 2030, we are seeing an increasing need for tree maintenance. But as we are experiencing budget cuts in the 26 budget year, we're not able to add additional resources to that tree contractual work. And so
Mike,
our
can you-
canopy
I'm
is
sorry.
growing.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
When he finishes, I
Okay,
can.
absolutely. Go ahead,
Our
sorry.
canopy is growing, our maintenance needs are growing, and yet it is becoming more challenging for us to keep up on the tree maintenance side for a department that was already underfunded when it comes to tree maintenance. And the next slide speaks to those contracts that I was mentioning. We have two large separate contracts with the same contractor, H&O, for turf management, valued at over $1 million, to cover approximately 750 acres citywide. And just to give you an idea of what we are doing in-house, our in-house teams are cutting about 800 acres citywide. And then there's also a NORD component and other city departments that are cutting smaller amounts. So H&O is doing our grass maintenance. Our Bayou tree contracts are as needed. In 2025, we allocated $320,000 and $150,000 to that tree maintenance, and that is for trims and removals to complement the work that is being done by our in-house teams. One thing to note on tree maintenance, over the last several years, we have received a substantial boost to tree maintenance from the fund balance and from ARPA funding. And the ARPA funding will be exhausted this year. The fund balance was exhausted in 2023. And so if the department is not able to contribute operating budget to our tree maintenance contract, we are not able to keep up with our backlog and to reduce it. And then some smaller contracts, the contract for cutting Duncan Plaza and City Hall, our Richards disposal contract, our HVAC contract, and then two necessary contracts for management of the golf course. That concludes our presentation. Now take any questions.
Member Thomas.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for your presentation. One of the things that the late Flo Shorenstein was famous for was the Adopt a Neutral Ground program, and you could drive all over the city and see this company adopted this green space, this neutral ground. In the last several years, you don't see that as much anymore. Why, and what does the city have to do again to get that kind of participation?
So that program was through Parkway Partners, which essentially acted as the nonprofit arm of the department. It was started in the early 80s by Ms. Shorenstein and continued until 2019 when it was sunset. So that program is no longer around, but looking at budget constraints and some of the challenges that we have, everything is on the table in terms of opportunities to work with the community. I know that we're exploring opportunities to work with tree maintenance companies for trimming of certain corridors. And we're also looking, we've talked about this in the past, working with neighborhood groups under guidance of a licensed arborist to do some smaller tree trimming. At this point, there's a gap in the services that we can provide because of the operating budget cut. And if we're not able to fill that gap in-house with additional hires, and we were on a really good track to do that at the beginning of 25. We had our vacancies down considerably. We were making progress, and then the freeze took place in June. So for us to rebound from those losses in personnel, and again, we're an operations department, there's regular attrition. People move on, people are terminated, people move to different departments, and so historically, the department has seen movement of personnel to where people leave and we're able to replace people pretty quickly. We have a great reputation in the community. A number of oftentimes returning citizens work at our department, but the gains that we made in the first half of 2025, frozen in June, and so we've seen an increase in vacancies. And so our hope is in 2026 that we're allowed to make up for those losses and to bolster our teams.
But those neutral grounds used to say this area maintained by such and such enterprise, such and such business. Why did that go away? Because in many cases, the department was able to supplement what they were contractually responsible for, because those businesses would take that green space, that neutral ground of that area. Why did that stop, especially since it was an integral part of avoiding budgeting or funding cuts? Did it just go away, or did it?
The entity that managed that, which again was a nonprofit, that I don't think it had a full affiliation with the department, but it was founded by my predecessor in the 80s, that entity no longer exists. And so looking at volunteer maintenance of public property requires input from the law department, risk management. We do have certain instances where we have volunteers working on public space and they through a waiver. But large-scale management of city green space is not something that we've done in the last 5 years. But again, facing certain challenges, everything is on the table.
But that initiative seemed to be helpful, especially because you could see the signs. This bank, this enterprise maintains this public space, and it could be for a few blocks. It could be for a pretty large area. Was efforts like that helpful, or could they be helpful in the future?
I wasn't here. I wasn't over the department. I was actually at Parkway Partners at the time, but we were not directly involved with that program. I think that program has been dormant was dormant prior to 2019 when the organization sunset. So,
is there value in programs like that?
I think absolutely. It's just whether or not the department, first of all, has the green light from law and risk management, and whether or not management of those volunteer teams is worth the effort.
Would it have to be an administrative priority or a department priority?
I mean, either. If we're faced with gaps in coverage, we need to ensure that, like the gains on the neutral ground maintenance, for example, by and large, neutral grounds are routinely cut on a 2-week cycle, and we strive for our in-house teams to follow that same cycle. If we're forced to fill our operating budget by reducing certain contracts, if that's even an option.
Then you could be forced to actually take a look at that. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
My button.
Yes. Oh, sorry, we can't. You're gonna have
Oh.
to call me.
Amazon.
Give me a signal, hand signal,
Oh.
carrier pigeon, smoke screen.
All right. I have a very specific question. My understanding is that we only accept cash payments for green fees at Pontchartrain Park for the Joe Bartholomew Golf Course.
We accept credit cards as well.
Okay, because I think a concern was brought to you by residents that there was recently some theft by some employees, and that maybe switching to purely cashless would
We
prevent
are
that.
exploring that, yes.
Okay.
I think that's a prudent course moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I think any opportunity we can have as a city, especially hopefully when Amazon backend starts working on the internet again, to go to cashless would be preferable, not just because of the fact that it prevents the opportunities for theft, but also because it helps with public safety, because when you promote that there's no cash out facilities, you don't have to worry about people potentially getting ideas.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry, Councilmember King.
Thank you, Councilman Caruso. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Karen, Parks and Parkways. Neutral grounds, all right, and parking on the neutral grounds. I know that's an issue, like on St. Claude, Esplanade, Legion Fields. So how much does that cost Parks and Parkways every year to maintain those neutral grounds from illegal parking?
In terms of damage done to the neutral grounds, the information that I have really is based on older remediation that we've done on Broad Street, off of Bruxelles. There are certain areas where we have more jurisdiction to implement certain remedies. On the 400 and 500 blocks of Esplanade, we were able to install bollards to prevent that parking adjacent to the old U.S. Mint in the French Quarter. We have fewer options on state highways, on Broad, on St. Claude, and the challenges that we're facing on St. Claude as a community stem from a number of factors, but as you know, there is a group that has been established, DOTD, Nighttime Economy, Parks and Parkways, and a number of other entities that is exploring improvements that we can make to the St. Claude corridor, not only for, to prevent certain actions from taking place, but generally to prevent to improve public safety, to prevent parking, to address pedestrian and bicyclist safety. We're limited in what we can do on state highways with the installation of bollards. To your question, I believe a 2-block stretch of Broad in 2022, don't quote me on this, but it was close to $20,000 to remediate. there's soil compaction, damage to the root zone, replacement of turf, and so all of that work was done sort of as a test case to see what it would cost per block. So if more of a focus is put on that, we can actually look at the damage that's being done and come up with an estimate for per block for the amount of neutral ground parking.
And actually, I know we're all trying to figure out ways to save money. So we can save this money on the front end by doing something to prevent parking and further damage of the neutral ground, and that's less money spent by Parks and Parkways to fix it, and more money you're going to spend to do neutral ground cutting or to do tree trimming. So that's why I want to just put that on the public's radar, that when you park on the neutral ground, it costs the city money, and that's money that we can't spend to do what we need to do. Are you familiar with the group organization called CEO, Career Employment Opportunities?
No.
Okay. I would like to sit down with you one day. So it's a group that they came before the council one time and they presented. They take individuals who are formerly incarcerated, like the day they get out of jail, within the first day or two, and they pay them daily on a credit card, and they do things like cut open lots.
I'm recalling them, yeah. We were looking at Brechtel Golf Course.
Brechtel Golf Course. So I'm
ADD,
thinking
correct.
expanding so they would like to get a CEA with the city.
Okay.
And I'm thinking if they also try to go with code enforcement, and maybe they can be helpful with the gaps in employment that you all may be looking at. We can help those individuals formerly incarcerated, a day or two out of jail, they're working. So if that's something that you're interested in doing,
Yep, happy
later
to
we
have
can talk about it.
a longer conversation with you. I know that I am recalling now a couple of years ago, we were looking at their exploring an agreement, a CEA with them for some larger acreage management.
All right, so we'll have that conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
That's all.
Councilmember. All right, seeing no other questions or comments from the dais, I have 2 comment cards, Arturo Abraham and Brandon Caston. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are y'all doing? I'm Abraham, Arthur Abraham, District E resident. One of the things I wanted to ask was, a request for the motion for a grants department to be created. Because I realize it's a common conversation that is very important to centralizing how funds are distributed and how they are found. So we have departments that are directly hunting for grants so that departments throughout the city can just really focus on the work. That would be my first request. The second thing would be I would like to find out the properties that are maintained in District E by Park and Parkways, on how to find that information so that we can deal with revitalization of properties and areas targeted for revitalization projects and efforts. That'll help us speed up the process for connecting other nonprofits that we're working with to get things done as a resident. And then third, my question would be, has there been an expiration concerning Entergy within their fee agreement? It's a requirement to maintain foliage. And I think there should be exploration concerning that contract and that fee schedule to help in supplementing the funding for maintenance of certain areas and improving quality of life in the area. That's part of Entergy's contract, and I think that needs to be explored some more. Thank you.
Thank you. Brandon Caston?
Councilmember,
Yes.
this is the second time today I heard the grants office mentioned.
Right.
On the first day of budget hearings, I presented the grants office as part of my team, so it is a newly established office in the CAO's office. The office did exist previously in a capacity in another department of all unclassified employees. These are classified employees established in the office as we speak.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. One more time for Brandon Caston. All right, Angela Kinlaw.
Hello, everyone. Just a few quick things. I noticed on, I think it's page 10, bullet 3, there was a reference to HVAC maintenance contracts, and I was just wondering if this would be another opportunity to advocate for a citywide fleet of workers just to focus on HVAC across the city of New Orleans. There's just another opportunity there to concentrate resources, but also maybe expedite efficiency. I also wanted to see if I could ask this team, did you all say you spent all your ARPA funds?
We have a balance remaining for tree maintenance, and we have the project at the Keller Center there's a small amount remaining.
Okay. Because I did notice that you had some money remaining, and I was just wondering if you had plans for it. So there's that. And then I was wondering if you could just answer 2 questions for us and the public. One, do you have any current plans at or around A.L. Davis Park? And then number 2, where can a resident find any of the general criteria that you all use to determine when work needs to be done in a park or a parkway?
Sure. So on the ARPA funds, just to add one other thing, the ARPA funds have been an incredible opportunity for us to add funds to our tree maintenance list. While they are limited in where we can use them, our team has done an excellent job in ensuring that those funds, when allocated to us, and we've advocated for additional funds, have gone to our tree contractor to alleviate some of the maintenance needs. At A.L. Davis Park, our work primarily is partnering with NORD on the maintenance of the canopy. I know we've done some trimming work around the tennis courts and just pruning of the trees around the park. And then what was the last question? I'm sorry.
Where a resident can find the criteria that you all use to determine when there needs to be upkeep or work in an area, park or parkway?
So I can provide information to you regarding our forestry division and what the arborists, what criteria they're looking at when they're inspecting their specific areas of the city. When it comes to park maintenance, it's often on a complaint basis, although our section managers in certain areas are always reviewing parks for maintenance needs or improvements.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to advocate that if there's a way for us not to just wait for it to be on a complaint basis, I'm just wondering if there's like a proactive tool that you all use to assess when work needs to be done.
So what we're really excited about, and council's familiar with this because they've heard it, or just because they're familiar with it across the board, is the asset management system. Parkways is in lockstep with the other departments in this, I think, phase 3, to ensure that, especially for our forestry division, that we're able to improve efficiencies and to have a better workforce management system that is less paper, more responsive, and we can better track our tree assets, but then also our park and other assets as well. So we're excited for the process to be onboarded and look forward to the first quarter of 25 and beyond for that. Anyone else?
I guess I have a technical question. On page 11, amount owed is just the remaining balance of the contract for this year. It's not that they're owed 6 months of payments or anything like that, right?
Correct. And we've obligated that amount, we're responsible, encumbered that amount at the beginning of the year to ensure that our contracts have enough funds going into the end of the year. The challenge often is to ensure that we have a substantial reserve going into the end of hurricane season. And so we make sure that our contracts are encumbered and that we have funds for emergency needs and other needs of the department.
So this is everybody, they're still being paid within 30
Yes.
days. This is just to cover the remainder of the year contract. All right, thank you.
Any other council members?
Doesn't look like it, and I think, Leanne, did we do all the public comment? Okay, and all the public comment cards are complete. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, up next we have Nord.
Good afternoon, council members.
Good afternoon, Mr. Barabino. You can proceed whenever you're ready.
So we wanted to start off talking about our, it's not working. Okay. We want to start off talking about our 2026 goals with NORD, but to get in our 2026 goals, we have to talk about our accomplishments, things that we accomplished in 2025. So I'm excited to say that as one of our goals is to expand our baseball training programs at our newly renovated baseball stadiums. We had the opportunity to take advantage of the Super Bowl turf that came from Super Bowl 59, and we installed the football portion of that turf at the Lafitte Greenway, which you could see it from Interstate 10 passing through, which is a beautiful skyline, and it's one of the most utilized fields that we have in our portfolio today. But with saying that, because the Superdome turf is so huge and we took into account for the turf that's outside of the football field, we were able to take and get about $4 million of bond funds, and we were able to renovate Joe Brown's baseball stadium, Perry Rome Baseball Stadium, Phase 1 of Perry Rome Baseball Stadium, Larry Gilbert Baseball Stadium, as well as we did the infield over at Wesley Barrows Baseball Stadium. So now today, NORD have 5 state-of-the-art baseball stadiums that's ready for not only NORD's uses, but high school, boys and baseball and softball, as well as collegiate, because we have a partner with Xavier University over at Skelly Rupp Baseball Stadium that we renovated last year. So NORD today, because of that turf and the funding, we now have 5 state-of-the-art baseball stadiums. Also with that, in our 2026 goal, we're looking to replace the Joe Brown running track at Joe Brown Track Stadium, and I want to say thank you to Senator Jimmy Harris, Senator Joe Bowie, and State Representative Jason Hughes for funding NORD with state appropriations of the tune of $600,000 that will go into replacing the running track at Joe Brown, Holidays in the Park in New Orleans East at Joe Brown, as well as we're being able to expand some of the repairs and maintenance that's needed out at Joe Brown complex. We're excited about the construction that's going on today with Cutoff and Velazquez splash pads. These are the first two standalone splash pads that we will have in NORD's portfolio, with Velazquez and Cutoff being the first 2 that's coming online, with the hopes of expanding and adding more splash pads to our portfolio throughout the city. Also with that, we continue to work to identify and offer customer service and continuous educational training to the NORD staff to ensure that we're providing quality services to the residents that we serve. We've created an on-call contracts for HVAC, plumbing, and electrical and pool contracting services. That's the goal for 2026. As of today, we now have the HVAC citywide contract, which helps us to where we don't have to continuously put something out for bid, and now we can go straight to calling the HVAC contractor, getting the quotes that's needed, and pushing forward with having those repairs done. Also with that, our goal is to continue to offer the stipend-based program for our teens 13 to 17 years old. Just to give the impact, over the summer months, we provided $254,000 worth of stipends to teens ages 13 to 17 years old. And part of the programming that we're doing, also with that, we're offering stipends to teens 13 to 17 years old with our spring and fall internship, which since we've been doing this, you see a reduction in teen and juvenile crime because we are providing funding for them to participate in the programming that we offer. Also in 2026, our goal is to renovate Conrad Playground Clubhouse, which is termite infested, and it's in need of a lot of repairs. And we're right now working with the city's ITI, and we'll be launching NORD's new website. That's coming online for 2026. We're looking to do the soft launch of it in December, but we're looking to bring the full website up and running fully in 2026. Also, what I do not have listed here under my goals is we also are working with the city's DPW property management with the asset management system, and our staff, our maintenance division, they're continuously participating with the training, and we'll be rolling out that system, as Mike Caro mentioned, through NORD, where we can track all of our facilities, maintenance, and repairs. For our 2025 budget proposal, personnel, budget to actuals and personnel. As you see here, NORD had in 2025 292.36 positions, and we they're proposing 215.01 positions. This shows a reduction in our summer seasonal lifeguards, but also with the hiring freeze, it impacts us today because we have 24.6 positions that are frozen and possibly can be lost. And this affects what we're doing today and impacts our aquatics programming. Right now, we're on the cusp of possibly reducing hours at our rec centers as well as at our swimming facilities because of the shortage of staff. And if we move forward what's projected with the shortage for summer for 2026, this will impact swimming pools that we're looking to open in summer of 2026. Basically, summer of 2025, we opened 14 swimming pools, and we renovated 2 additional swimming pools at the tune of $90,000. It was $40,000 for Harrell Pool and $50,000 for Lafitte Greenway Pool. That's slated to open in 2026. But also, we have secured a contractor at a tune of $155,000 for A.L. Davis, and the contract is being routed for signature now, so we can start the renovations of the A.L. Davis swimming pool. But our challenge with looking at this budget and the budget cuts is making sure we have the lifeguards not only to sustain the 5 year-round swimming pools and keep them up and operational at normal operational hours, but to be prepared to open the summer swimming pools at full capacity. And just to give a quick overview, during the summer months of 2025, we offered 2,850 swim lessons were offered to those that came out to NORD swimming pools, and we had 59,377 persons visited the NORD pools during the summer months. And the goal is to continue to offer those lessons. As of now, between August 29th and September 25th, we offer 794 swim lessons at our 5 year-round pools that are still currently open right now. With our 2025 budget summary, as you see, from 2025 to 2026, it's showing a reduction in personnel of $864,761. It's showing a reduction from 2024 to 2025 of $1,487,728, which gives a total reduction in our budget of $2,352,489. This is budget to actuals, and in personnel, they're looking to have a reduction in the unclassified unclassified employees' pay. Also, they're looking to continue with the hiring freeze and all other classifications and other operating. It was a removal of one-time funding and the 2026 proposed budget reduction. So this will impact the operations of NORD. As we know, NORD is a front-facing, hands-on organization that the residents depend upon. And so we know that the effects will be felt in the reduction with personnel as well as operating in our rec centers, with operations as well as our swimming pools, swimming programs, and all of our other programming and facilities. But I want to say thank you, though, Councilman Giroux, as you mentioned about the WISNA funds. It's very exciting to hear about the WISNA funds, and I'm very, very, very optimistic and excited about understanding what that looks like in the budget for 2026.
Yes, so we're actually going to put in the budget for this year. So I know it doesn't do you as much good as you could do, but we're filing the ordinance at the end of the council meeting Thursday, and then we'll vote on it at the first meeting in November.
Okay. Here you can see now budget summary and our budget summary request. It shows 59,000 from 2025 to 2026. It shows an addition of $581. Wait, this isn't, hold on. I'm sorry, those are non-general funds. In non-general funds, it shows an addition of $59,581, and this is in our CDBG funding. This shows an increase in CDBG funding, which are the funds that we use to operate and run our summer programs with. Just for clarity, we have been receiving the same funding for years as it relates for our CDBG funding. So for the 2026 budget impact, as I talked about the different things that will be cut, you know, here we talk about how we're going to have a reduction in staff, which is going to be a challenge with us as it relates for our aquatics and lifeguard positions, which are critical for life safety operations of our facilities. Also, the cuts in operations will slow down the repairs and maintenance that's needed for us to operate our facilities, keep our parks and playgrounds clean and safe, and it increases liability risk. We'll have fewer operational hours at facilities if we don't have the proper staff to be at the facilities. We'll have reduced hours in programming and reduced hours of operations of NORD facilities with a reduction in our budget and, of course, in funding. Also with this, when you look at proposed solutions, we want to update current fees and schedules for facility rentals. So when you look at NORD's charter and NORD budget, NORD has fees in its budget that we charge for facility rentals, for private events and functions. Well, those, based upon the data and the research that we've done and looking at across the board charges of other facilities, we would like to see an increase in those amounts, and that would have to go through the council through an ordinance. Also with that, when we're looking at our budget, we know that we have non-Orleans Parish residents that frequent our facilities for fitnola programs, for water aerobics. And so Jefferson Parish as well as St. Bernard Parish charge an out-of-parish fee for persons who come and utilize their recreational facilities. We'd like to also see about including that in the ordinance where that NORD can then start charging on non-Orleans Parish fees for non-Orleans Parish residents who come and utilize our programs and facilities. Also with that, you look at some of the programming that we offer and just look at how possibly can and if there should be a fee implemented on certain programs at a sliding scale, of course, for fitnola programs and other programs, adult-based programs, but on a sliding scale basis. So our 2025 departmental, these are actually 2025 departmental contracts. These are the contracts that we're in right now. So at the top, the CDBG funded contracts, these are primarily summer camps and summer partners, service providers for summer. That's paid through CDBG funding. And we have our general fund contracts, which consist of partners contracts that we provide funding to, such as 18th Ward, Spartan Boxing, STEM NOLA, Unchained Realities, which is our esports programming. Also, HNO NORD puts out a little over $560,000 contract in grass cutting. We pay that to maintain all of the 400 plus acres of grass for NORD properties. And also with that, our pro placement, which is our sports officials. But these are the ongoing contracts and our Fit NOLA instructors. So this is a list of all the ongoing contracts we have, even with Johnson & Johnson Control, and also with Cajun Innovation Solution, which is the on-call A&E contractor. I'm sorry, HVAC, our on-call HVAC contract. And that is my presentation, and I apologize because I didn't introduce Ashley Frank, who is the CFO of NORD, who's sitting up here with me.
Well, thank you. I don't see any comment. Councilmember King.
Thank you for the presentation. Quickly, Mr. Barabino, so you're looking at a $2.5 million reduction in the budget, roughly.
Yes, pending on the funds that we will receive from the Wisner grants, but as of today, yes.
And just so you can let everyone know, how many assets does NORD have throughout the city?
NORD has a total of 161 assets and facilities citywide.
And that includes what?
That includes parks, playgrounds, green spaces, rec centers, stadiums, swimming pools, indoor and outdoors. Yes, everything. Multi-purpose rec centers, tennis facilities. Yes.
And it's difficult to keep that maintained with really roughly $20 million. So you're going to get $17 million. So we're asking you to do the same with $2 million less, with $2.5 million less.
Yes. Yes. So when you look at the cuts that we have or that we're looking at, one of the biggest cuts is about $500,000 to our facilities and maintenance, who today has a $1.7 million budget with a $500,000 cut that reduces that to $1.2 million, and $500,000 of that $1.2 million, $560,000 automatically goes to H&O for grass cutting. So that leaves NORD a little over about $700,000 to maintain all of its facilities and assets. That's HVAC systems, that's pools, that's fixing high mast lights when we have high winds blowing. That's making sure that all of the facilities are clean and you're fixing everything. And that is a hard task to do with $700,000.
And how much are you all going to get from Wisner?
I'm not sure of that information.
There's $4.9 million allocated. I haven't spoken. I think the question for the administration is how are they dividing that between health department and NORD?
So let's say it's half. For the sake
The
of this,
bulk
it's
of it is
half.
going to NORD.
The bulk of it?
Yeah, it's only 718 going to health. These are based upon pre-approved programs that we know qualify for Wisner.
Okay.
So for health, we know their gun violence program already qualifies, so that is why we did it for this first ordinance. We may change it next year based upon needs of the administration, but for this year is the 718, and then the balance goes to NORD, over $4 million.
So 4.1 some change.
That's great. I think that's definitely a boost. But I would just argue that NORD is still severely underfunded.
Yes.
Compared to Jefferson Parish, which receives how much?
Jefferson Parish have a guaranteed millage of $35 million, and they operate and manage 70 facilities east and west bank of Jefferson Parish. Only one public pool in their portfolio when we have 18 in ours.
I mean, comparing the two parishes, we always compare to Jefferson, fairly or unfairly. I think this is a situation that shows just how severely underfunded NORD is. And you can replace NORD, the administration, the leadership, But if the funds aren't there, it doesn't matter who's going to run NARD. You can't make a steak dinner with a hot dog budget. It's just impossible to do. Last thing, we have a boxing facility on Lafitte Greenway. We have one in Millennium. So what's the plans? I know there was talks about $500,000 costing to renovate the EMS facility on General Maya in Algiers.
So if you can identify a city facility, which would be the cheaper way to go,
Yeah.
identify a city facility and the funding, then we can build out a boxing facility in Algiers. And I know we were talking about the former, I think it was an old fire station, and now EMS is there on General Meyer. And so, yes, but we would love to help build out a boxing facility in Algiers.
And is that number still in the 500,000 range?
We really don't know until you get into the facility.
Okay.
Once you get into the facility, then you go to designing it and building it out. Then, of course, you come to get to know the cost, and that's done through the architects and engineers.
Okay, well, I know we got the turf on Lafitte because we say we want to have each part of the city with a turf field. So if we're going to do that logic, we need to have a boxing gym in Algiers because there's already two on the East Bank. Just applying the same logic. Is that fair? Okay.
We're playing that politics.
Well, that's all I had. Thank you for your presentation.
I know we last met with the expansion of San Bernard Playground.
Yes.
I think there were some plans, capital projects had some plans for the expansion. How was that impacted with this budget, potential budget, as well as the splash pad at Richard Lee and some of the other potential projects, track replacement at Joe Brown, et cetera, in terms of the district? How does this impact that?
Right. So the track replacement is fine because those are funds, that state funds that's going through the NARD Foundation. So that will be fine. The project over at San Bernard will also be fine because those are bond funds. Those are bond funds, so that is secure. Right now, when it comes to the Richard Lee, those are bond funds, and I think that's a capital request that the Capital Projects Administration has put in for Richard Lee because all they have in hand right now is the funds for design. But we're working with myself, Capital Projects, and others are working with Pastor Calhoun in the Lower Ninth Ward Development District. We wrote a grant for $2 million that we're waiting to receive a response on to see if we're being awarded solely to do a splash pad at Richard Lee.
Right.
And so we submitted that grant. We collectively worked on it, submitted that grant, and just waiting to get the results of it.
And I know it's not my district, and Councilmember King has mentioned this before, but I spent a pretty large portion of time with Coach Zulu, Coach Casby and them out at the cutoff, and it's a heavily used playground. And it was just a bunch of kids out there, families out there, practice, but it's not comfortable in terms for the families to actually be out there. And it was amazing to see the number of folk who didn't really have a place to sit while they were practicing and while their kids were out there on the field. So I don't know, one of the things I promised them when I talked to the family members and the people in that area is that I would support Councilmember King's effort to make sure that a park that's used actually is a lot more comfortable and access for the family. So I don't know what you guys' plans are for that, as well as Conrad uptown, but those are two places that, and then of course everyone knows Harrell is one of the standards, but the cutoff and Conrad are really heavily used for a lot of activity, but it's not comfortable in terms of the people who live in that area.
Sure. So there's a lot of development going on at Cutoff because not only are we building a splash pad that's 75% complete right now, but Congressman Troy Carter, as well as Algiers Development District, has secured $4 million, and so they're about to be breaking ground on a natatorium, indoor swimming facility at Cutoff, which will have us to redesign the sports field side of things out there. So it will, the amenities that's coming out at Cutoff will help them to redo the sports field, but also they'll have a splash pad as well as an indoor swimming facility there. But also at Conrad, our goal is to get the additional funding, and for 2026, we need to fully renovate Conrad's concessions building. That needs to be fully renovated because it's termite infested. And we've kind of secured the issue with the termites, but now we just have to do all the renovations to it.
Will there be a place for families and so they can sit, watch, bleachers, or
So
comfortable
some bleachers,
place?
no, yes, we can definitely make
Yeah.
sure that we adding the bleachers out there for them to sit down and
Okay.
be able to enjoy and watch the games at both locations.
All right,
Yes.
thank you.
All right.
All right, we're going to go to online, well, not online, comment cards. Mr. Abram, followed by Ms. Kinlaw, followed by Ms. Mackey Wright.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Mr. Barabino and your team for all that you all have done. We appreciate you all greatly, especially on the splash pads. We have a lot of families who have been traveling from the east going to Destrehan for splash pads. And I think that is very well needed, so we thank you for that update. One of my questions comes for really trying to figure out an audit concerning the Nord parks that are in District E. Because I think from last time kind of walking through, there might have been a list of close to 28 parks within that area, but very few, obviously because of budgeting and financial restraints being managed. But how many parks are currently under Nord's possession in District E? Could you elaborate on that? And then my next question has been addressing older paper records, because there have been difficulty in dealing with certain maintenance records that are, as we know, New Orleans is very, very old. Being able to digitize certain records in Nord that have been difficult to find and to assist in fixing certain buildings, and just really would like to know how the process for digitizing records in Nord has come along. And then my last question would be for really dealing with the stadium. I know we have about 2 stadiums there in the east. Has there been an exploration concerning building a covered stadium to be able to have a larger space for crowds and generating revenue in that area?
All right, so to answer your first question, off the top of my head, and I don't have the data with me to tell you the number of parks and playgrounds we have just in New Orleans East, but we do have.
Mr. Barabino, I can give you some of the data because, if you go to the parks in New Orleans East, like I do, where we see each other at the games, whether it's basketball, football, or baseball, where we're actually out there, where my nephew, my brother-in-law, many of them coach, probably some of the most heavily used. And if you look at the proportion of athletes who participate in extracurricular activity, middle school and high school, we know some of the most successful programs are the ones in the East. So thank you, because that's where I know we've done a lot of our work, especially those of us who go to all of the games and are at the activities with the families. So there has been an increase in activity. The only thing that people have been concerned about is overall maintenance and general maintenance of the buildings. But to all of our family members who coach, who volunteer, who are out there, and if there's a game, where you see me.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And just to address on the maintenance side, we do have a work order system. Everything is already digitized, and now we're moving to the asset management system, where that everything will be input into a system and managed, which will include taking pictures before the work is done and after the work is done. And that's a new system that we're going to citywide with all of the departments and divisions. But Nord is at the forefront of this, meeting with the agency that's doing this and making sure that we're ready to implement it with boots on the ground in 2026.
Okay, thank you.
You said how many locations are in the East, District E? I didn't get that.
I did not say the number of locations in New Orleans East, but we have a host of robust parks and playgrounds in New Orleans East, as well as Joe Brown campus that consists of the baseball stadium, football stadium, playground, track and field stadium. So I don't have the specific number of parks in there, but we have a large number of active parks and playgrounds in New Orleans East. And we have a host of passive playgrounds and green spaces in New Orleans East as well.
Thank you. Mr.
Yes, and you can also go to our website because it breaks down all the parks, playgrounds, and facilities by district on our website.
Yeah, I think it just didn't have it on the master plan that matched up with the website. That was a discrepancy.
So, Mr. Abram, respectful, if you can maybe ask that offline, we've got a couple more cards. Mr. Barrett will be around after the meeting. Ms. Kinlaw, followed by Ms. Mackie Wright, followed by Mr. Malcolm Williams.
Greetings to this team, and Mr. Barabino, you actually answered a couple of my questions already, so I want to say thank you for that. Just the other day, I had asked Council Member Leslie Harris about A.L. Davis Park, and she did indicate that there was going to be money allocated for the repair of the swimming pool, so it was good to hear you reinforce that today, so that means that there's some cohesion there, and I appreciate it. I also wanted to share with you that one of the things, I always have a healthy skepticism about promises that people make until we see the evidence of the work actually transpire. And for me, it's been being in community, speaking with young people who have been old enough to not only participate in the swimming training, but actually become the lifeguards. And there have been a few young people in the community who've been able to articulate to me very clearly that they didn't know how to swim before. They were able to participate in the lifeguard training, learn how to swim, be trained, and come out on the other side and actually make money as young people. And I thought that was just to hear it being said, particularly because in the area that we're talking about, a number of those pools have been dilapidated for a while, and to see them be back in effect and see the young people being actively engaged. So I definitely want to be one of those people who advocates that there's no funding cuts regarding aquatics, but also the lifeguard training and anything that has to do with our pools, particularly for those of us who are community defenders for safe public water systems. We see that training as being a matter of life and death. When you're in an area that is surrounded by water, we should all know how to swim, and it's not always our fault that we can't if the opportunities are not there. Just one final question I have for you is, can you share a little more about how a person can support NORD through the board?
Thank you, Ms. Kinlaw. I appreciate it. Mr. Barabino, want to
Sure.
respond?
So NORD just kicked.
Yeah,
recently-
that's a really good question, because a lot of people ask that. And if you could be clear, I'm sorry, Councilman, but how people could participate, because that's one of the things that used to work well in the past when we had a lot of volunteers, high school coaches, college kids
Yes.
who would participate.
Yes, absolutely. So there are a few ways that you can do it. One, we're always looking for volunteers, persons that's looking to volunteer at their local neighborhood park or playground and support the programs. Secondly, we just kicked off our Adopt a Park program to where that we're looking to engage neighborhood associations, fraternities, sororities, churches, different neighborhood groups that's looking to adopt the park or playground in their community. We're trying to get more people, more organizations, more neighborhood groups involved in providing support at the parks and playgrounds in their communities. We just kicked that off, and that information's on our website for that also. But if anyone that's looking to make a financial contribution or donation to NORD, they can definitely do that through NORD's foundation, which is a 501c3.
Thank you, Mr. Barabino. Ms. Mackie Wright? Marsha Mackie Wright? Going once. All right. Mr. Malcolm Williams. Malcolm Williams. Ms. Katrina Foley. Katrina Foley. All right. Paula Felton. Paula Felton. And individual on North Miro. No? Okay. Well, that's all we have for today.
Motion to adjourn.
No, we have the
Park Partners.
park partners.
Oh, the park millage? Oh,
Yeah, the
okay.
village.
Okay. No, but not quite done. Parks Millage up next.
Sorry,
Jumped the gun on that one.
that's because of what I just learned.
No, I could click it. 'Cause this is not. Mike said that he's a designated clicker.
All right, whenever y'all ready, you can get started. Ms. Johnson. They call you back.
The next presentation.
Didn't submit it?
Sam's going to check it out.
It should be on the agenda. It's normally paired right after Norm. Either way, we all have copies of it, so we'll still just do the pieces in a second. Thank you.
Very well.
You don't have the millage? Well, I
Okay.
can get my computer and send it.
Well, Duke,
Do you, actually, Brandy, could you forward it to? Who, Brandy said she can forward it. Who should it go to? Oh my gosh. Oh my God. All right. Do y'all want us to wait for him to pull it up, or do you okay with us starting? Okay. I'm just going to do a quick opening for this group. We are gathered here today to talk about the Parks Millage. We're joined with our partners at Audubon, City Park, Nord, Parks and Parkways, and I will start with Ms. Shemin and then introductions down.
Shemin Grant Saloy, good afternoon, Vice President of Community Affairs, Audubon Nature Institute.
Good afternoon, Casey Duplashane, City Park Conservancy, Chief External Relations Officer.
Asia Hallett, Office of the Families.
Larry Barabino Jr., CEO of Nord.
Michael Karam, Director of Parks and Parkways.
Okay, just quick overview. We're remembering that in 2019, voters approved a ballot proposition for the redistributed funding across 4 major park agencies that gives us Audubon, Institute, Nord Sea, Parks and Parkways, and City Park. Agencies pledge to use funding to increase programming, improve maintenance, address environmental resilience. Agencies signed a cooperative, a CEA, that committed each agency to partner on joint initiatives to increase coordination and access to parks. So that's just the core of how we got here. With that being said, because Nord and Parks and Parkways just presented, we'll just go ahead and kick it off with City Park, Audubon, get into the big, green, easy updates, and that'll be that. So,
Great. Good afternoon, council members. City Park in fiscal year 2025, the millage allocation was approximately $2.8 million. Those funds were invested into capital improvements and resiliency, strengthening the care of City Park's 1,300 acres with year-round investment to our grounds, including sanitation and horticulture, building and safety upgrades, park-wide repairs and maintenance, ongoing aquatic management within our 13 acres of lagoons, and ensuring the park remains safe, clean, and welcoming for the millions of visitors that attend every year. In addition to that, we've continued our community programming, where we offer free and accessible programming to the community, including distributing community tickets for Celebration in the Oaks, which is the park's largest fundraiser, large-scale events, including Happy 3rd of July, our partnership with the Louisiana Philharmonic Orchestra, which is Swing in the Oaks, and then our evenings with Enrique in the Botanical Garden, as well as hosting annual Nord events. And then an additional highlight, we also completed the City Park 2050 planning process, which was over the course of 2 years. We engaged over 2,000 participants at our community meetings. We've held 30-plus focus groups, garnered over 5,200 survey respondents, as well as over 30,000 community comments, which created this vision for City Park's future, informed by the people of New Orleans.
Thank you. Good afternoon. For Audubon Commission, fiscal year to date, we have received just under $8,750,000 from the city through September. This has helped us to maintain operations, facility services, and security at Audubon Park and other Audubon facilities. We paid just under $2.5 million in debt service on bonds issued to support capital projects, which include the Audubon Aquarium and Insectarium renovation, which opened in 2023, Woldenberg Riverfront Park improvements, Jaguar Jungle renovations at Audubon Zoo, and Odenheimer and Reptile House renovations at Audubon Zoo. Habitat and public space updates to improve guest safety and animal welfare were also executed with these funds. For next year, we will use $5.3 million to maintain operations, facility services, and security at Audubon Park and facilities. This is 11% of our operating budget of $48 million. We will also use just over $2.5 million for debt service on bonds to support the aforementioned capital projects, and the millage balance will address large-scale deferred maintenance at Audubon facilities. Also, speaking to the opportunities for the public to visit our attractions, we do continue our Community Connect program, which is our three-pronged program for Orleans Parish residents to visit our facilities. So if you have a SNAP card, at least 6 guests can visit every day to the zoo or the aquarium or insectarium. Also, with the New Orleans Cultural Pass at the library, you can either go to the library or go to the library's website and download a pass to visit the zoo or the aquarium. And then on certain Wednesdays of the month, we have Orleans Parish Appreciation Days, both at the zoo and the aquarium. And we do partner with Nord in that every Nord camper can visit the zoo or the aquarium and insectarium complimentary. They do not have to pay any admission fees. And so we are happy to be supportive with our partners in that way. Thank you.
Good afternoon again. As mentioned in what I didn't mention in my budget presentation is about $8.7 to almost $9 million of my $17 million proposed budget is bond funds. And so with those funds, of course, we continue to operate and maintain our facilities and play structures, making sure that we're able to repair the maintenance and upkeep and repairs to our facilities, for our programming operations, for our equipment replacement, and programming supplies. And of course, as mentioned in our budget, just continue to be able to operate, because this does not give our millage does not give an increase to our budget, but it's already embedded in our budget. And it sits between 8.7 and almost $9 million a year out of the proposed $17 million budget that we have at the table right now.
And for Parks and Parkways, the one-time allocation at the initiation of this millage redistribution went to the purchase of heavy equipment and equipment for our grounds maintenance teams. Since then, funds have been used for tree contractual work, and this year, given budget cuts, there's been less of an impact to our budget because of the millage increases in the past, which has helped the department to work through budget challenges in '26.
All right, just a couple updates on the Big Green Easy. So that's the Parks Millage. One of the reasons that it's embedded in here is because a part of the agreement for the millage was that there would be a Parks Master Plan. So a couple things that I want to throw out there about this. One of the first items that is supposed to happen in the Parks Master Plan is a Chief Parks Planning Officer. When we discussed this at the release of the Parks Master Plan, we knew that we were going to be having a new administration, and so we weren't sure if it made sense to have someone in-house when a new mayor would be able to choose who they want for that role. So that's something that would need to go into place. But that hasn't stopped a few of the things, of the other pieces from coming true since then. So just a quick history, and then I'll let you know what we are at today for things that have been accomplished. So 2022, Parks Partners committed to launching the Parks Master Plan. We made sure that when we were building it, equitability, and I don't know, equitable access and environmentally resilient park systems were the core of it. And then we also made sure that when we were figuring this out, we knew that we didn't have it, so that takes us back to the EPA funding, and that also takes us back to ask for funding from the legislature to support these things in this past year. What you'll also notice that when we look at the Big Green Easy, another piece of this, and I think Larry and Mike touched on these. So one, thinking about making parks part of the legislative agenda. And so that isn't something that has strategically happened before. So NORD has been really good about getting their own stuff, but we haven't said, hey, these are the things across the board that we want to see happen. And so that's something that we've been working on putting together across our offices. Another piece that has been accomplished is working with OCAI, again, mentioned yesterday in our budget hearing, but making sure that when we are looking at how we can partner, we can figure out benefits to those who are giving to the space. Another piece that has been worked out is this tracking and maintenance repair. That's another part of the Big Green Easy, the efficiency. And so the things that I'm naming right now are things that were supposed to be done in the first year. So even though we didn't have the Chief Park Planning Officer, we still were able to knock some of these things out. Another piece from the first year of implementation was looking at a study of the fees for NORD. So thinking about where we're not bringing in money where we could, and so that's another thing that Larry had just mentioned. And then also adopt the park, so making sure that in every neighborhood there's that collective accountability. So there's a few pieces of the first year of implementation that have been already started. And then the other thing that I do want to name, which I think will, the work of like the Chief Planning Officer, is to go through all the things that have been happening across the board. So there's just a ton of work that was already on track to happen. So in the first year, it said that there would be continued work on Lincoln Beach, and we know that ORS has continued to work on that. So a lot of the plan just needs to be updated for stuff that was already in the pipeline to be worked on. And then beyond that, I think it's really about making sure that we have a strong legislative package, so that way we can get the funding to make up that difference. Because like Larry said, knowing that NORD has 161 properties, Parks and Parkways has over 200, and then that is just a little under what Jefferson Parish has for their 70 parks. So we want to make sure that we present that for legislative session. And that's it.
Good question.
Yep, Councilmember Moreno.
In the Big Easy report, a Big Green Easy report, it talked about potentially looking into a merger of NORD and Parks and Parkways. Has any of that been looked into, studied?
Yeah, so anything that had to do with like major shifting, we didn't think it was appropriate to bring up at the end of a mayor's term, because all of that shifting or whatever would be true or not true, hiring a new person, it would still be like in flux for a new mayor to take over, and we just didn't think that was a wise step for us to be doing, right?
Yeah, gotcha. I think a study on it, just to have the information, I think would have been important. Instead of starting, from scratch with at least the new administration would have. Keep forgetting it's me. Yeah, I would have that information readily available and then be able to kind of make a decision based on that. But I think that the Big Green Easy plan is a really excellent plan that does have a lot of good steps in it to create a more effective system of parks and recreation. So I am glad that we have this, and I know that this was also a costly study as well. So I am glad also to hear that some parts of it have now been starting to get implemented.
I will also, lost my train of thought.
I know this was mentioned at a previous council hearing. I know it came up with NORD and property management that, coinciding with the Big Green Easy, the oncoming asset management system, and the work order system are allowing NORD and Parks and Parkways, because we especially are under focus on the Big Green Easy, an opportunity to assess what we have, to improve jointly among many other departments the work order system. And so with the next administration, you will have a better understanding of what assets between the two entities exist, where there's improvements that need to be made, and how the respective entities are managing those assets. And so even without a study, once that system has been fully implemented, it will help the next administration better assess where NORD and Parks and Parkways are.
And just based upon conversations and meeting nationally with Parks and Recreations nationally, New Orleans is unique because as NORD and Parks and Parkways are separate, a lot of the roles that Parkways plays is more or less Department of DPW work, such as maintaining neutral grounds, thoroughfares, such as maintaining tree canopies, because in other municipalities, that's done through departments of Public Works or DPW, as to whether all parks and rec are consolidated as one, but it doesn't maintain city facilities or grass cutting, tree trimming, and stuff like that.
All right, I have a question, Mr. Karam. This is an email I just received about the planting of trees on the Gall as a result of the Sealer project.
Yeah, the Army Corps project, yes, sir.
Is there any plans for the first phase that was done, and what's the plan for the second phase?
So my understanding with that, with that canal project is that the trees that were removed, the Army Corps is obligated to replace them in kind, or not necessarily in kind, but to replace what was removed as a part of the project. And ultimately, the Department of Parks and Parkways will take on ownership and maintenance responsibilities of those trees once the establishment period has been completed. So there have been a lot of questions about that project. I think they're now in phase 2. They've been working with DOTD, Parks and Parkways. There's a planting plan in place, and ultimately trees removed, or the canopy removed, will be replaced.
And is there, they're going to wait for the entire project to be done to start planting trees, or do it phase by phase?
I don't have that information, but we could definitely get it from Joey at Army Corps.
Okay, and the last comment in that email was the maintenance of trees from Holiday to Woodland and the neutral ground that's been ignored for decades, per the emailer.
We can look at the work orders that are there, and similar to some recent improvements on Shirley, where we get a work order that comes in, it's sometimes for one tree, sometimes it's for an entire corridor. And Shirley, one work order that covered dozens of trees. And so sometimes we have that ability based on the work orders that are coming in, but we're happy to work with your office to review any areas that need additional maintenance needs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember. I just want to end by saying this. This millage passed while Councilmember Moreno and I were office the first time, and there was a lot of hand-wringing about how is it all going to work, and how's everybody going to coordinate, and what's going to happen, and blah, 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 that it's going to be the end of the world as we know it potentially, because people aren't going to all work together. And the fact that there's literally nobody saying anything, I think, is a testament to the work you all have done to make sure that isn't the case. It's really easy to get worked up about what something could look like, but the fact that NORD, the city park, Audubon have partnered so well, and I'm not going to take it that it's 3:30 this afternoon. I'm going to take it that if people were upset, they come let us know that they're upset, and I think it speaks to the work of your teams. And I hope you go please tell them that we feel that way, and obviously the public's lack of comment on this is a reflection of that. So very much appreciate you being here late in this day. We will be back here in Chambers at 3 o'clock tomorrow for a budget committee meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. We appreciate
Stand
the
at ease.
opportunity.
Thank you.